future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
And greetings and salutations, everyone. You have tuned into Dr. Judy WTF. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, and we are here at the fabulous Universal Broadcasting Network studios here in the heart of Hollywood in Sunset Gower Studios. Today we have a very unique show. We've kind of dabbled in this one off and on for quite a while, but it's entitled, Dude, Does This Selfie Make Me Look Like a Narcissist? We're going to be dealing with social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and such, and narcissism. And if you have ever unfriended somebody on Facebook, we want to hear from you. You can call us on area code 323-843-2826. That's 323-843-2826. And later in the show, we will have our regular segment of Shrinking That Tune. And we do take requests. And it's actually a song and an artist we've avoided and we're going to dive into. And you can catch us on Stitcher, live on iTunes. Catch Stitcher and iTunes, live on TuneIn, and, of course, here at UBN Radio. So, Dr. Judy, you've had a busy, busy week thus far.
I've had a busy, busy week. It's great to be
aren't
here.
They are?
This is one
Aren't
of
they
my
all?
favorite parts of the week, Walt.
Mine too.
I am very excited about this particular show because social media is blowing up. And people are posting, and I even see posts about people's dinner.
I see dinner. I had one friend who's a chef, and over Christmas time, he baked a whole bunch of chocolate chip cookies. I mean, what is bad about chocolate chip cookies?
Nothing.
Right?
I mean, I'm not putting that down, but you know, it comes to a point where the term narcissism takes on a whole new meaning.
Yes, it
when
does.
It just gets so obnoxiously blown out of proportion. And, I have a cell phone that buzzes every time somebody posts. And lately it's been driving me really crazy because Facebook, post.
You know,
it's like,
you can turn that alert off.
Thank you. You're going to
Judy.
show me how to do that because I'm so not techno.
Yes, I believe we can, yes. Because I did, I think.
So what is narcissism? Narcissism is not what we think it is. It's actually quite a big injury to the self.
Yes,
and
it is.
There's healthy narcissism, which is when we get all our general needs met. I'm going back to attachment theory, which I talk a lot about, honoring John Bowlby, Sir Richard Bowlby, who continues his work on how to create a healthy human psyche. And it boils down to some pretty simple ingredients that the animal kingdom is very good at, and for some reason the human race is not so good at, like giving eye contact, breast milk, skin to skin, a safe environment for the baby to grow up in, and having what I call pillars, mom and dad or caretaker, whoever those figures are, but that the mother or the caretaker put the baby's needs before her own. And when that particular system goes out of balance, then you create what is often referred to as a narcissistic wound. So what happens is narcissistic injuries show up in all kinds of ways, and we've talked about some. They're great candidates for plastic surgery, as we know, because they're never going to be pretty enough, sexy enough, and never going to be enough. And
well, we talked kind of about that last week, I think it was, where there was a book written, Cybernetics, in the early 60s about one of the earlier plastic surgeons in New York. He would do amazing plastic surgery, hand the mirror to a lady specifically, and say, hey, didn't I do a great job on your face, your nose, or whatever? And they could not tell the difference.
And the reason is because
it was totally internal.
It's completely internal, is exactly, Walt. And what happens is that the psychoperceptual lens of a person gets cracked. So it's almost like you can't see straight in a psychological way, so that you look in the mirror and what you see is not what is there. So there may be a perfectly beautiful or healthy looking, or however you want to define it, person in front of you, but then you start seeing, my nose is a little too big. Oh, my ears are a little bit out of proportion. Oh, I need lips that are a little thicker. My teeth don't exactly line up. Now, I'm not saying that every single act of plastic surgery defines you as a narcissist, but certainly when there's a pattern of keeping at it and not feeling a sense of satisfaction and not seeing that there's an end to the process, there's something wrong. I had the privilege this month to be on a show called Botched, and it's a very, very
Couple
interesting.
times, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to be in 2 segments,
Yeah.
and it's very interesting. This particular segment has nothing to do with narcissism, and I'll announce when it's going to be played. But
the
the
E-Network.
general theme of Botched is about plastic surgery gone wrong, and surgeons correct this process. And what we're seeing is that the inside job really needs to have some psychosurgery done. Okay, so somebody has to go in there, a psychologist, and really, I call it crack the plastic. And
Crack the
then
plastique.
the plastique, and crack open the wound so that the wound can be exposed and eventually healed, so that the person no longer needs to be run by this narcissistic injury. And Walt, I know you have a bunch of articles on social media and how it's showing up, and today I also had the privilege of having Huffington Post. I have an opportunity to put my 2 cents
Finally,
in there.
I've been trying forever to
Yeah,
get
but
Huffington Post.
who knows if they'll take up the article. But
Oh,
the
they will.
article the challenge was, tell us about narcissism and the side effects of narcissism, one of which is overdoing social media.
Yes.
So go ahead
And
with some
not
of this
all
interesting.
not all narcissism is created equal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, healthy narcissism is akin to your developed self. Healthy narcissism is a result of good enough mothering, a term used to describe the basic level of narcissistic emotional supplies needs to create a healthy psyche. Healthy narcissists have a high self-esteem and balance of mind, body, and soul. That sounds like a contradiction of terms with a narcissist. They have good boundaries, the ability for empathy, and typically have healthy relationships because they are able to not only receive but also share. And lastly, healthy narcissists are not narcissistic in the selfish understanding of them. They are self-caring and giving.
And by the way, that's an excerpt from my book.
That's a healthy narcissism.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about unhealthy narcissism,
Yes.
which we all probably are a little more familiar with.
Yeah.
So, and I was going to finish my story about cookies. So my friend posted these cookies,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody says, "Can I have some? Send me some. Here's my address on Facebook."
Okay.
And one guy goes, "Do you know how many calories in that cookies? Do you know how much sugar is in that cookies? Did you use processed sugar?" I mean, went on and on and on and on and on and on about how lousy these cookies are. My friend finally had to defriend him on
Oh,
Facebook.
God.
It was really funny.
Okay, but have you ever had people on your friends list that keep posting and posting and posting, and it just doesn't stop?
I've got one that does. I mean, he travels all over the country. Hey, I'm in Chicago today. Hey, I'm
Yeah.
in Starbucks, and
Yeah,
it's
like, okay,
my life
all right,
is
enough.
totally enriched because of these nuggets of news.
Right, and there are some people who post, and the posts are really interesting. They're quotes from famous people, or they're philosophical in nature, or they're informative, and I do appreciate those kinds of posts. And then even occasionally I want to know what's up with somebody's life, if somebody's getting married or they had a new grandbaby or whatever. But, it's when you keep seeing these endless pictures being posted,
That's a narcissist.
and they're the star of each picture.
That's a narcissist.
And they're perfectly posed,
That's a
and it's all
narcissist.
about me, look at
Yes.
me, look how great I am. I think a key is when you look at these pictures, are you being enriched by the message, or do you feel a sense of disgust, envy, embarrassment for the person?
Deflated.
Do you feel deflated?
Yeah.
Are you feeling that their intention, because one of the things I talk a lot about, and I'll bring up the mind map in a minute, is everything starts with consciousness. So when
It
we're in the
does.
right consciousness,
Yep.
when we're in a sharing consciousness, then we will be in the spotlight. Hopefully, I'm in the spotlight. Walt, you're in the spotlight, but hopefully we're in the spotlight to share. So yes, it is about us in a sense that we're here. And hopefully we're here for a certain reason, and that the people who are seeing us and hearing us benefit from that.
And that's our goal, and we get a lot of kudos and whatnot, and our audience is growing, and we really do appreciate that.
Very much so.
And we pick on Facebook, but there are other places for narcissism, but Facebook's the gorilla of the bunch. I mean, it only has 1.44 billion people on Facebook worldwide. It's almost a billion and a half people. It's gigantic.
People? Wow.
It started as many of you know, back in 2004, which was a crack up. I mean, that's 11 years ago in its infancy, when Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, we're just going to do this really quick, was a sophomore at Harvard. And he hijacked all the IDs, the photos from the IDs, put them on, and did this thing called Hot or Not. They basically took women and compared them, which one's hotter. School got a little upset with them and was going to expel them, and they kind of changed their mind. Then it was expanded to Yale and Columbia and Stanford, and then grew.
I just wanted to
and
make
its
a
market share right now, its market value right now is $212 billion. $212.
I just wanted to add a comment about that, Walt, which is that the consciousness behind Facebook from a Mark Zuckerberg perspective is a point of comparison.
Well, that was how infancy.
But that's the the seed level of how it started.
That was
how it
began. Yeah, that's how it started.
And it's still, are you hot or not?
It's kind of
it
expanded,
hasn't changed.
A little more intellectual, but
yes.
Yeah, because he then got faces and people. His goal, of course, was to interact with people, and the byline of the show, folks, is healing human disconnect. And if you're radically connected to Facebook, you might not be as connected as you think you are.
And there's an illusion, because when you have umpteen friends, it feels as though you're really connected to people. But are you really connected to people, or are you just using the media to show off yourself to people so that you can get more and more likes, which will feed the narcissistic injury and fill the hole in the soul? And it's never ending, because hole in the souls are bottomless pits.
They are bottomless pits. And it's funny, we talk about, and Judy's book's coming out soon regarding the mind map. She talks about a cracked lens, how a narcissist and all of us actually look at life through a cracked lens because of how we were raised from our primary caregiver. And the goal of the mind map, and what Dr. Judy's accomplishing rather well, actually, is for us to get a brand spanking new prescription for the lens that we look through, through going through self-examination, which really can be done by yourself, and getting a brand new prescription and a paradigm shift of what your origins causes are or were. I am not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not worth somebody's time. Everybody's too busy and doesn't have time to pay attention to me. Those kind of things.
And if you put the mind map up,
and those of you that are listening, you can go to drjudywtf.com and see it. Oops. And there it is.
Thank you so much, because I want to point out to those of you who are watching, and if you're not, you can always call up the mind map via the website. And so the top row represents the creation of the problem, or the encoding. I call it the encoding of the blueprint of all of our light and darkness, all of our injuries, and all of our strengths. And then the middle section is how life will dismantle you if you're not coded correctly, if you're not coded in a healthy way. And then the last section is the paradigm shift into health. So we're encoded, and now we have to decode the material that's not sustainable and not healthy, and now we have to recode.
And as we like to say in the show, childhood is not. Childhood is a hostage situation. So just because you got all this stuff when you were a kid doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's valid, and there might be the messages.
Right.
Might not be true and not be valid. So thereby, it's a way to re-encode, get rid of the virus, and put some stuff healthy in.
So with the case of a narcissistic injury, the narcissist will encode something like, well, you're really, really important on the one hand. Okay, and mom will put that child, or caregiver will put that child up on a pedestal. The problem is the world will not necessarily continue to put that child up on a pedestal. So when the when the child falls from grace, there's a huge injury. The other way,
and on top of that, I want to add that what people really don't understand, and I deal with friends who've got, boyfriends and husbands that are huge and ex-husbands that are massive narcissists. They are the most insecure people on the planet. It is a total front and a facade, and this is how they're able to cope. You injure that narcissist, it's a big, gigantic, huge deal. How do you injure them? Tiny things like looking at them and go, have you gained some weight?
Oh, God, that's funny, but it's not funny because it really hurts.
It's a little tiny little question, right? I mean, if you gain some weight or, do you need some Botox on your face or are you losing your hair? Just a very simple question. It's not even, you're ugly. It's just a question. And they will take it to the core and, oh, my goodness.
Because the core message is really that you're not important.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything.
They're not important.
They're not important. And so one of the ways that they react to it is they overblow.
Drama.
So it's exactly that. The core is very, very weak, but the defense is very, very strong.
Overblown.
And one of the things they love to do is they love to project into you the feeling that they don't want to carry within themselves, because they need to rid themselves of this low self-esteem. They need to rid themselves of feeling like they're not important or good enough. So what they'll do is they will use a very, very primitive defense mechanism where they'll project the feeling into you. And if you have a core belief that goes something like, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm not beautiful, or whatever that is, then what happens is that core belief that they're projecting into the other is kind of like a hook that's caught by the other, and then the narcissist gets to swim away and feel happy and relieved that the other person is carrying the baggage, so to speak,
they leave them
and
with
the horrible
tons
feeling.
of baggage.
So the three Ds of narcissism is demean, devalue, and destroy. And the real problem is because they didn't have an empathic connection to the primary caregiver, they lack empathy because they were not empathized with. So they don't have the ability.
Empathy, hardly.
So
if you've encountered one or are encountering one and want a little insight, you can call us. Get on the couch with Dr. Judy. Come on, we know we all have emotional ouches, so get on the couch. I'll stay off. The number is area code 323-843-2826. And you can
we
get
love
on the
call-ins.
couch. Yeah, call in. So I thought in terms of selfies and digital narcissism, when Kanye West, Kim Kardashian, and Justin Bieber have in common.
Kanye?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's Kanye.
Oh, okay.
I'm
don't
such
know how
a fan.
to pronounce
I'm
it
such
yet.
a fan of his that I butcher his name. It's Kanye West. Kim
Now
Kardashian
there
and
you
Justin
caused
Bieber.
him a narcissistic injury. You mispronounced his name.
know.
Hope he's not listening.
Grandiose exhibitism, inflated self-views, superficial personalities, and shameless self-promotion. In that sense, they are just like millions of their Facebook and Twitter fans around the world. Digital narcissism. It is noteworthy that digital expeditionism and inappropriate self-disclosure have been at the core of every mega successful app of this type. It started with MySpace, which was a directory of wannabe pop stars and DJs, which was actually started a year before Facebook, ironically enough. Then came Facebook, the encyclopedia of common people. YouTube gave everybody their own TV channel. Blogger and Tumblr made us all creative writers. And Twitter brought us tons of followers, and LinkedIn, positive endorsements, because who cares about our faults? Instagram made selfies the word of the year last year, while Tinder, the ultimate dating tool for narcissists, and Snapchat is basically for sexting, made Facebook look intellectual. Freud, So now we have the rise in narcissism rising in decades for all these platforms, right? And it's a steep decline in altruism and empathy levels since the advent of Facebook and Twitter. Freud, who, I thought you'd enjoy this, who would no doubt have thousands of Twitter followers today if he could simply squeeze his views into 140 characters, referred to this as the hedgehog dilemma. You familiar with this one, I trust? That is, humans are like hedgehogs in the winter. They need to get close to each other to cope with the cold, but they cannot get too close without hurting each other with their spines.
Interesting.
Needless to say, this is the last paragraph. Needless to say, most social media users are not narcissistic. So just because you're on Facebook doesn't mean you're a narcissist. We're not trying to imply that in the least. Yet, social media is to narcissists what crack is to crack addicts. The more narcissistic you are, the heavier your social media use is. The number of status updates, attractive selfies, check-ins, followers, and friends are all positively correlated with narcissism. And my daughter actually wrote a paper when she was in high school, and it was entitled, and you alluded to it earlier, Connecting or Collecting.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
If you've got, just thousands of, quote, friends on Facebook, you're not a connector. You're collecting.
And one of the key distinguishing features is that the narcissistic person who uses social media likes to be liked, but they don't necessarily too much like back. So it's about it's about panel 7. Put panel 7 up because I want to show you something, which is that when Facebook and social media is supposed to be an interconnection and a paradigm shift, and it's supposed to give light to everybody. What happens in the narcissistic transactions is that there's a vampiring effect, okay? So that they're getting a lot of the light by your attention, but they're actually sucking that energy up for themselves to elevate themselves. And if you, at the end of that process, feel like you've given too much at the blood bank, so to speak, and you feel like you've overliked without a sense of appreciation. I think we all know people where we put in, and we get so little back, and that's an example of the vampiring effect. So I think the social media is a great platform for people to really see it at work.
It is. It kind of magnifies it.
Yes.
I mean, people use Facebook to show off, not to share their life with, which I thought this was kind of interesting, which I've alluded to before as well. Just think about the last 10 or 15 status updates on your Facebook friends. The majority of them are over-edited photos with fabulous vacations, expensive purchases, brags about insignificant personal achievements, such as hitting the 5-mile milestone on that Fitbit that they're working with, or just an attention-seeking selfie with a banal quote that has nothing to do with that duck face expression.
And what's so sad is that all that time and energy can be spent meeting your friend, eye-to-eye contact, and all the stuff that makes for healthy human connection. What did you call it? Connecting or
collecting.
Wow, I love that.
It just says it all. Collecting or connecting. So, if your Facebook friends, Facebook's got like 3,000 friends, they're just a collector.
Remember that book by John Fowles? It was a really famous book called The Collector, and it was a pretty intense book about a man who collected women like butterflies. It's a very interesting book, but it just, there's the ultimate collector. Not connecting, believe me, not connecting.
So, and do you think these status updates are about sharing their life with you? So let me ask you a question, and this is really an important question you guys need to consider. How many times have you seen these people sharing the really embarrassing moments or setbacks in their lives on Facebook? I mean, seriously, sincerely, without any intentions of getting attention. That answer explains everything, right? They're going to show you that brand spanking new car they just bought, which, is just, they look like $1 million in it, but they don't tell you that they got drunk in celebrating 2 weeks later, wrapped it around a tree, and the car's gone, right? As far as you know,
that doesn't make them look good.
No. As far as you know, they're still driving around and tooling around town in that car, when in fact they already toasted it, right?
What did you say? You said it many times, but I love that expression that you have, that we take the best.
What we do is, it's an unfair comparison, and I got all through my notes. And basically what we do is we compare their best, which of course is blazingly in front and advertised in front of us on Facebook, with our worst. And when you compare their best, even their average, to our worst, which we all do, it is such a complete and unfair comparison. Every single time you're going to lose. And it's never, 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 never fair.
So the narcissist needs that other piece. The narcissist needs the other person to admire and look up to, because
Yes.
they need to stay up on the pedestal. So it would be a horrible feeling for them to, I would think to be defriended would be just a real kick in the narcissistic
Devastating.
wound, wouldn't
That's
it?
right.
Yeah.
That's what I said. And you are listening to Dr. Judy WTF here on UBN Radio Network. We're here every Thursday live at 8 p.m. Pacific. And if you miss us, you can catch on Stitcher or iTunes, and you can listen to us live on the UBN app on your smartphone or on TuneIn. And we are really talking about, dude, does this selfie make me look like a narcissist? And that's why I found that narcissists don't really like Facebook too much, because it requires interaction. You put something out on Facebook, people have to respond. They got to like it, they can make a comment, and if he doesn't get any comments or doesn't like, then gosh, he just got injured and is like, you know what, I don't want to put myself through that garbage. So they prefer Instagram.
Oh, is that it?
Absolutely.
Wow, I didn't know that. I just learned something
And
new.
Instagram
Okay.
is now owned by Facebook.
Huh.
So
Good deal.
they spent $1 billion on it.
Wow.
And the point is, you take a picture, throw it on Instagram, and that's all it is. Basically, the ultimate, in my view, the ultimate platform for selfies. Now, granted, you can make comments on Instagram photos, but they are very, 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 very few and far between.
So what's the healthy use of social media? I mean, obviously people do want to promote their businesses. They do want to promote their philosophies. They do want to share with their friends significant life events. So what do you think would be an appropriate use?
Well, you want me to answer that question, how to spot a narcissist on it, and we can kind of go off
from
to
there.
there. And the other
Absolutely.
reason, the other medium in social media that narcissists like is Twitter. Again, they can pontificate for 140 characters on Twitter and spit out all they want, and you can't really respond. You can follow them, you can you can pass them along, and sure, you can make your own, but it's not like, again, there's an interaction. So it's like, look at me, I've just said blah blah blah. Or on our Instagram, look at me, I just did, and here's a picture of my ultimate selfie on Instagram.
So are you saying, and I'm not such a great user of this because I'm not really very good at
No, it's just
electronics,
that's
but
just
anyway.
that's just the medium and what's interesting is,
You mean it's one-sided?
yeah, and
Okay.
Twitter pretty is, and
Okay,
Instagram
okay.
totally is.
I see. All right.
But you have to understand that when you look at social media, it depends upon your age. If you're older, typically you've already have contacts, you already have relationships, you already have friends that you've established through work or school or just going to church and bouncing around life.
Sure.
And thereby Facebook is more a medium for you to kind of connect with your friends and say, hey, this is what's going on, here's a new baby, and this, that, and the other. If you're younger, then you haven't gone down that road yet of establishing those contacts and those friends, and you're using Facebook differently. Like my mom, she has 13 friends. Every one of them's a family
Wow.
friend.
Well, I'm
She
her friend. I have to be friend.
And maybe she's got 15 now. But the point
Okay.
is,
I'll be
she got
number
it
16.
primarily. She got it to catch up with her 3 granddaughters, who of course are on Facebook.
So that's a nice use of Facebook.
Yeah,
because then
it
you
is.
can
Otherwise,
be in touch with your family if they're overseas, for example, and see what they're up to, and see the snapshots. That,
Well, I had
yeah.
one that was really funny. My youngest daughter, who's now 21, she put several years ago just a 3-word thing on Facebook. Well, that was deep. Maybe that's 4. And I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. And, I, as a dad, I'm not going to really get too involved in a conversation with her on Facebook. So I called her. I go, what happened? Well, she broke up with her boyfriend, but then got back together with him about 6 hours later.
6 hours, wow.
Yeah, that lasted about 6
That's
hours.
painful.
So the real reason here is how to spot a narcissist on social network. First, so many selfies. Does the person post so many selfies? And that's one sign. There's 5 of them, by the way. Second, putting other people down in their posts. For example, posts like, most people are stupid or most people are like sheep can be a sign that this person might be a narcissist. Third, posts really a lot, very often. Narcissists are always posting frequently on social media in order to feed their narcissistic egos. 4, treat people with disrespect and arrogance, which is kind of like the third one. Narcissists think they have they're better than others, so they usually don't treat them very well. Okay, there's a connection between arrogance and insecurity. Now, let me state that again, folks. There is a connection between the narcissistic arrogance and their own insecurity.
So you can see how it's the defense
Oh,
again.
huge.
Okay, so
Huge.
so the deeper they are in that hole, the more they will have to appear as if, and that's called a false self.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't really know who that person is because they're hiding behind the facade of this invented, magnificent, perfect, perfectly, what's that word where you take all the wrinkles out of your face? You
Botox?
No, not that, but like on the camera, right?
Photoshop.
You Photoshop
it out.
everything.
Yeah.
Right. You
I have one
Photoshop
friend
everything.
whose ex-husband, during the whole time he's been in business, he takes his undershirts, his T-shirts to the cleaners, and they're pressed. And I keep trying to tell them the reason why that they're doing that is because they're so insecure. That's his armor.
So is he depressed?
Probably more so than you would imagine. And the lastly here, and again, we talk about narcissists and drama. When they revenge, they overkill. For a narcissist, criticism is not by any means acceptable if it is exceeded the certain limit of a narcissism might think is acceptable, and they get a little toasted.
By the way, they can do it in very subtle forms. Like, for example, they can invite you somewhere and then blow you off last minute. Have you ever had that happen? Or they can, for example, I'm trying to think of examples of a narcissistic, where they don't have eye contact with you, where they're looking at their cell phone rather than being with you, when they're just so busy to really put the time into the relationship. And when the person on the receiving end really starts feeling like, geez, is this person really, really interested in me, or am I just an object to stroke their narcissism?
Again, collecting or connecting.
Connecting or collecting.
Yeah. So, when you're on Facebook, it really does reveal your personality. And this is real quick. I thought this was interesting. Are you a narcissist or not? People with a lot of Facebook friends tend to have low self-esteem. A lot of this is from a publication called Computers and Human Behavior, which I wasn't familiar with. Those who are worried about their public perception have the most Facebook friends, and they are self-conscious people. To compensate for this low self-esteem, they're trying to appear popular on Facebook. So that's not narcissistic, but I thought it was interesting. Extroverts update their status more often than introverts. It's probably self-explanatory. Now they use the like button often, upload more pictures, upload more status, and more frequently than introverts. Conscientious people organize their photos very carefully. They found that extroverts use conscious people use Facebook. They do so very organized. They have neat folders. They help share their photos with friends and family in a methodical and a convenient way. Open people, this is number 4 of 7, fill out their personal profiles most thoroughly. Again, some of this is pretty straightforward. They describe them artistic, imaginative, creative, and they use most of the features on Facebook.
I think where that shows up is on dating sites. Often if you see somebody with a profile on the dating site, it'll be a selfie, and potential narcissist alert, or you'll see the person generically call the person, "Hey babe," or "Hey beautiful," or something
to me
very,
that implies,
very generic.
Yeah, it's too generic. They're really dating 8 women and they don't remember any of their names, and so it's all the same, babe, beautiful, and whatnot.
Right, or you will see that they don't really have a profile. They'll say, "Please contact me at such and such an email or such and such a number because I don't come on here very often," which means that they're not really that transparent. So these are just some
ladies,
clues.
one thing that cracks me up is talked about in here is if you go on a dating site and there's this infamous bare-chested selfie in the mirror.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of those, right?
I don't know. I'm afraid that's not my thing. Yeah, I know you look at it, and so if there's
common.
ladies, if there's the bare-chested selfie in the mirror of hey, look at me with my chest off, hear me roar, that you might be ending up with a narcissist.
And then there's the car, the photo
of
of the
course.
person in the car,
of course.
or the woman who is really exposing a lot of her chest. and the double,
Yes.
double, triple
Yes.
D's.
Yep.
And so, I think you get the picture. And if you are, if you have a story of a narcissistic media example that particularly flamed your insight into this potential narcissistic being, please call in and
We've got a
share
few
your
minutes
story.
left. You bet. 323-843-2826. Call in, or you can write us at info@drjudywtf.com, and we'll respond to you in a later show. Then two more here. Narcissistics make deeper self-disclosures that contain self-promotional content. It's all about self-promotional content. They're posted more frequently about themselves in an attempt to attract likes and comments that fuel their beliefs about their self-important, and of course selfies. Neurotic people, on the other hand, post mostly photos. That's all they do. Highly neurotic people, those are prone to stress and anxiety, seek acceptance by publishing photos. Since neurotic people struggle with communication and social skills, they use Facebook and Instagram
So this
and
is
Twitter a lot.
like a big Rorschach test. You know, if you do this, then you're probably this, and if you do that, you're probably that.
And neurotics have the most photos per album. You know, they have this
Oh,
album, and
wow.
you got all these photos. Like maybe they're. And lastly, agreeable people are tagged in other people's photos most often. So tagging, you can see photo, and then you click on the photo, and you can see all the people in the photo. The higher the person ranks in personality scales for agreeableness, the more likely that person is tagged in Facebook photos. So I thought that was kind of interesting when you're just bouncing around Facebook. You see these different traits. Might not be a narcissist, but might be.
So, what if we ask people to like us on Facebook? What
And
does that mean about us?
We don't have enough likes. We really do need our show and info and our ego stroked. And if you are listening to this or near a computer, you can go to Dr. Judy WTF on Facebook, and yes, Facebook, and like us, and you'll get updates.
I'm going to have a psychological test performed on me just because I desire to be liked. I want to know the truth on that.
Okay, doctor. Thank you, doctor.
Sure.
So, and I know you've had some folks that are just on your friends on your Facebook that have just, that's. I mean, it's a comment, it's a photo a day, or it's just all over the place.
It starts getting pretty obnoxious. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to this real quick because I found it. Why disconnect? Middle-aged adults, this is older versus younger. Middle-aged adults usually have already formed their social selves, and they use social media to gain approval from those who are already in their social circles. College students, by contrast, are trying to broaden their social circles and broadcast their views about a wide range of topics and issues. Narcissists typically are talking about exhibitism, superiority, entitlement, vanity, self-sufficiency, authority, and taking advantage of others.
So the topics are dead giveaways.
Yeah,
okay.
it's totally a dead giveaway.
Okay. Yeah.
So, it's about me, right? And I think that the selfie is just the ultimate. I mean, if you got somebody else in the selfie, that's cool.
There's a concept called mirroring.
Yes.
And mirroring means that the mother mirrors back to the infant their being. So baby smiles, mommy smiles. Baby is in distress, mommy responds. So there's a kind of a sense of a back and forth. And when this function is missing, this lack of attunement, this mirroring is missing, what happens is that the person needs to have a mechanism to get a sense of self. And that's why we're getting this sense of, they're lacking a sense of self, and so they have to be mirrored. And the way they're mirroring themselves, because they didn't have the proper attunement and mirroring in the first few years of life, is through these selfies and these other ways of presenting themselves on social media.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because one article here talks about the fact that the ultimate reflecting pool, every narcissist needs a reflecting pool.
Sure, right.
And social media. There are 90 million selfies and counting on Instagram.
Jeez.
And that's just the selfies alone. So narcissists are gravitating toward Instagram.
So look how wounded we are as a society. Look how wounded we are, and it boils down to mother-infant disconnect, and that's why we spend so much time on healing human disconnect.
Yes,
and
we
this
do.
is the chaos that's created out of disconnection. In an attempt to connect, we're really disconnecting.
We are, and it's the rise of the narcissistic digital media star,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yes.
me, 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 me. It's really funny to look at. And then sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, check that out. So, because every narcissist needs a reflecting pool. And, what better way than just take a picture, post it, look at me.
And
you're
I
done.
was just talking to I talk to my patients a lot about this subject because unfortunately the subject comes up and they're either dating a narcissist or married to a narcissist and want to get away from the narcissist and want to know if the narcissist is a narcissist. Okay, so if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, then you're probably feeling pretty demeaned, devalued, and destroyed, and you're probably feeling really lonely inside because they're going to engage. Their level of engagement is to feel to really engage so that they feel better about themselves, but they're not really necessarily all that interested in your feeling better about yourself. So it's a pretty lonely relationship.
Well, it is a lonely relationship, and it's sometimes one-sided. I mean, the point is, too much Facebook may lead to envy and depression, because again, you're comparing your worst to their best, and
Right.
they'll be doggoned if they're going to even show anything remotely related that's not their best, right? It says here, if you quietly stack your friends on Facebook and then realize your life doesn't measure up to theirs, then you feel bad about yourself. Again, you are comparing your worst to their best, and they aren't going to show you anything other than their best, even if it's a total fake and a facade. So
And
you got to
it's-
be
it's
really careful.
Right. And it's also a good way for you to self-diagnose, because if you're engaging in that kind of interaction and you're self-harming by putting yourself down by looking at other people and how pretty they are, or how rich and successful they are, or how educated they are, whatever it is, then you can bet on it that your core belief is something like, I'm not worthy, or I'm stupid, or I'm not good enough. And then the sick part of us will use that social media to really reinforce our negative core belief and bring us further down into our hole in the soul. And it's not a healthy cycle, as you can see.
No, and this one guy puts out, it's really interesting. Facebook is a huge part of my life. Like most Facebook users, so he thinks, I have an app on my phone. I check it at work. I check it at home. I check it when I'm out. I check it when I'm at the subway station. I check it when I wake up. I check it when I go to bed.
And what if that person spent more time with his children, more time with his friends, more time with his wife, more time with his hobbies? What would happen then if we took all the time spent on Facebook? What could we be doing with that time?
One of them says, go out, go join a group, go do meetup, put your phone down, for goodness sakes, and
Yeah.
go meet people. I
Right.
mean, there's even a confusion on here, he says, between there, and there. There, T-H-E-R-E, there, T-H-E-I-R, and there, T-H-E-Y''R-E, right? There, and there. Well, I had to read that a couple times to really correlate that with Facebook, but it's true, right? Is it really there? Are they there, or is it theirs? Right?
Such a virtual world.
Very, very virtual, and the world, unfortunately, is getting more virtual all the time. So go out and can put your Facebook down. What if you didn't check it for a whole day?
Yeah, amazing.
How would you feel? What would
Facebook
you really
withdrawal.
be missing? Because as you well know, on your page or whatever, trust me, it's all there. You can check it tomorrow and not miss a thing. Maybe you might miss a birthday to somebody to say hello to if you do that. But that's really it. Try it. You might be surprised. And that's pretty much it for the show we've got today. There is another aspect to it which we didn't get to, which really isn't part of the narcissistic aspect, but about self-esteem, how it does impact. Social media is really killing folks' self-esteem. We've alluded to it a lot about comparing one's worst to their best.
Yes.
And it's such an unfair comparison.
And so ultimately, we all want to feel good about ourselves. We want to regulate our emotions. We want to attune to each other. And so that when we don't have these basic human ingredients established at the blueprint causal level, I call it, the mother-infant dyad, the bond, the secure attachment, this is what we get, folks, is a lot of disconnect and a lot of shoring up, a lot of defense mechanisms against feeling not so good.
And if you want a copy of Dr. Judy's new article, and look for it on the Huffington Post.
Oh, I don't know if it's going to be accepted.
Well,
but
look for it. It's
it's
called Modern Day
announce
Narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be posted on our site, drjudywtf.com, or you can write us at info@drjudywtf.com, and we will get you a copy. It really talks about healthy and, of course, unhealthy narcissism. And now we are going to go into our segment of Shrink That Tune, where we take a popular song, I read the lyrics, and then Dr. Judy interprets it through her psychological and mind map experience. Just want to add that if you can hear our voices, you can get a hold of Dr. Judy and her team, because a lot of the stuff you just can't address on your own. It's just not possible. You're doing a lot of selfies in the mirror and you realize it might be too many. Pick up the phone and Skype or call. And she has an office in Sherman Oaks and in Beverly Hills, does a lot of phone therapy and can even do Skype. And given the system that Dr. G's developed, it's a lot more efficient, very efficient, and effective than you could imagine.
And time limited, and I have a whole staff of other therapists and psychological assistants and interns that work on a sliding scale fee for those of you who need that.
Absolutely.
And
very
please
sliding.
feel free to ask questions, call in, and I even have the Peaceful Healing Dialogue up in the forms section on my website, and you can pull that and use that to dialogue to stay connected.
The song we're going to do is none other than Britney Spears, entitled Lucky. And this is a story about a girl named Lucky. Every morning she wakes up, knock, knock, knock on the door. It's time for makeup. Perfect smile. If it's you they're all waiting for, they go, is she lonely, this Hollywood girl? And they say, and we're going to hit the chorus next. Well, hit it. She's so lucky, she's a star. But she cries her lonely heart, thinking if there's nothing missing in my life, then why do these tears come out at night?
Well, I love the title. Lucky presumes that she doesn't have much going for her. She's just lucky. So if she shines, that's nothing to do with her inner core of well-being. It's just that she happens to have all the right accoutrements, the right makeup, and everything going for her in a very superficial way. Isn't she lovely, this Hollywood girl? Well, she's lovely because that's the most important thing to her, is that she be lovely.
Well, again,
then she feels good about
she's,
herself.
She's got to doll herself up and go out and face the public.
Yes.
Again, she's taking her best and magnifying it and comparing it to other people's worst.
But she's so lonely.
Well, she's very, very lonely and has tears at night. Lost in an image, in a dream. But there's one thing there to wake her up. And the world is spinning, and she keeps on winning. But tell me what happens when it stops. They go, isn't she lovely, this Hollywood girl? And
so this is the image. The image is made out of the outer world, and there's no inner world. So it's kind of like a dream, but there's no one there to wake her up, meaning that she's just stuck in this kind of a fake self state. And when it stops, then she goes down the drain. But she keeps having to shore up and maintain the image so that she can always feel good and lucky.
That's it. Best actress, and the winner is Lucky. I'm Roger Johnson, the pop news standing outside the arena waiting for Lucky. Oh my gosh, here she comes. Isn't she lucky, this Hollywood girl? She's so lucky, but why does she cry? Is there nothing missing in her life? Why do the tears come at night?
Right, because there are only flashy moments, but that's not sustainable. We can't just keep walking down the red carpet. We can't just have our face in the spotlight. What happens when the spotlight goes off, and we have to live our life, and we have to face the fact that that life is just not about a bunch of highs and lows and spotlights and makeup and shoring up. And for those of people who are not so lucky to have eye contact, skin contact, breastfeeding, good enough mothering, attunement, mirroring, all that stuff, they're not so lucky. So then they've got to look like they're lucky.
Have to have the appearance of being lucky.
Yeah, that's right.
And we would be so lucky if you'd contact us, and you can write us at info@DrJudyWTF. You can pull us on Stitcher and iTunes, or here at ubnradio.com. The archive stuff of our past shows. We've gotten a lot of stuff on narcissism, on envy, on loneliness, on forgiveness. Self-talk was a great show. Well, you know, if you took your self-talk and your best friend listened to what you say to yourself, would they still be your best friend? Right?
Right.
So thanks for listening, and we're going to close out with a song, and hope to see you and connect with you next week. And this is Dr. Judy WTF, and Walt Lusk is your host, and Dr. Judy Rosenberg. God bless everyone.